Welcome back to another video from Transcriber from Reddit. Today's topic comes from the exLutheran subreddit. It's been a while, and in light of the investigation currently going on about it, I thought it was well worth the time to go back and bring to light the abuses, whether alleged or real, that have been happening in the WELS. Specifically, people in the exLutheran subreddit discussing it. You might ask yourself, why would they choose a subreddit to talk about it when they could do so, or they could have done so as members? Because the WELS likes to downplay and undermine anyone talking about these things. So the safest way to do it is being anonymous and online and in the subreddit exLutheran. Please give these people the maximum amount of respect if you decide you're going to comment here. Here, this post is a text post titled WELS Schools and Treatment of Kids Not as in all caps, in their church. The post reads as follows. Can anyone comment on the treatment of students at the WELS denomination schools? If a child is part of the WELS church connected with the school, are they given any preferential treatment to a child who is attending the school but not part of the church membership? My observation is that new families from outside the WELS church feel pressured to join the denomination so they can enjoy the inner circle benefits. Don't join the church. Then pay a full tuition rate and expect your kid to be second class. Anyone validate the same experience? It's like some kids get ignored or mistreated by some of the staff or instructors. It's very tough to detect at first. Frustrated parent. Well, OP, known as the_dude2023. I completely empathize with the position you're unfortunately stuck in. Yes, WELS definitely uses membership as a way to get discounts on tuition. Also equally unfortunate is, say hypothetically you join the church. And I say join in the sense of you go to the church, but you're not officially a member there. Say you have a kid and you decide to enroll the kid. They will do whatever they can to get you to join as a member to take full advantage of the tuition discount. Reminding you that full discount is X thousand amount of dollars versus discounted tuition is X amount of dollars. If you decide to stand your ground and remain a non-member while paying the full tuition amount so your kid can get a hopefully better education, there is the very real possibility that there will be bullying involved. I speak of this as my experience having been an outsider coming into a small WELS school. Small town WELS schools especially are notorious for this kind of behavior. Now, unfortunately, it was someone who was outside WELS who told this to my mom and then which later got relayed to me, but small towns only accept you as a person if you've been there 20 years. And that's if you accept everything that the small town tells you to accept. Unfortunately, my parents drank the Flavor Aid in this situation, joined as full members, and therefore myself and my siblings became part of their school and my parents got the discounted tuition. However, perhaps because of, or in spite of. I don't really know the difference this day, but we were treated as outsiders even though we joined, and my parents fully believed everything that WELS taught. Myself and my siblings were treated as outsiders, as people who are second-class citizens in the WELS. What we said, thought, or felt did not matter, not according to the people who were the names at that particular church. I saw other kids who would go to catechism class or vacation Bible school or Sunday school or youth Bible hour for the older kids, not yet high schoolers. I saw them getting the same treatment as myself and my siblings. Outsiders, second-class citizens, and people that were different in a bad way. Note that the word bad was never quantified. It wasn't that they were bad because they had a criminal record or a juvie record or their parents did drugs or, something relatively tangible. It was all nebulous. Unfortunately, it wasn't until I got well out of that grade school that I actually was able to experience true friendships and relationships. Now, that's my personal experience. Let's read the comments. First comment from plenty_treat 5330 says, "Please don't become members to have your child fit in. WELS is not a good religion. They are very cultish and very snobby to outsiders, not to mention how they treat females." Yes, I would agree. Please don't become members. But at the same time, my compassion goes out to parents who don't have a lot of options or who are restricted by socioeconomic status, their jobs, etc. If you need to, you need to, and no judgment to you. Just be prepared to support your child if and when bullying occurs. Next user, Anon896745, says, "The WELS school I went to had a family who sent their 5 kids there for 10 plus years. One of the younger kids wanted to lead a prayer at the flag and was not allowed to because his family was not a part of WELS. I always felt that students who went to other churches were looked down on." I would agree with that. Next user, BabyBard93, says, "Yeah, kinda depends on the school. Most I know of are pretty snobbish about non-member families. They do is in all caps, like their tuition money, though. They do want non-members to join. That's always the goal, because you gotta admit that if the parents are not religious or go to the local, quote, non-denominational, end quote, parentheses, cough, Baptist, cough, end parentheses, megachurch, the kids are actively learning that their own parents are, quote, doing it wrong, end quote. It makes for awkward discussions when the kids learn about, quote, living in sin, end quote, and come home to tell their mom and her boyfriend that they're sinning. So the administration wants families to agree with what they're teaching their kids, join the church, grow the congregation, etc. It's not meant to be evil or controlling, more like mission outreach. Now, imagine that you are is in all caps, members, but you choose not to send your kids to the school. I've seen some awful bullying over that. It's really sad. It's like, quote, well, we have this excellent is in all caps, quality education, parentheses, not is in all caps, and parentheses, that is Christ-centered, and all good is in all caps. Parents want their children to have the best instruction for their eternal salvation. Guess you just don't care about your kids, and clearly you don't support our congregation. I disagree with the above poster who stated flatly that you are a bad person for sending your kids to a WELS school. Nobody knows who you are or your reasons. What you can do, though, is read through this sub and see all the people who have been terribly hurt by this arch-conservative doctrine. I think it's mostly a lack of information. They can sound really lovely on paper, but I know what they're teaching your kids. The doctrine and beliefs are anti-science, misogynistic, sexist, and extremely bigoted. God forbid one of your kids happens to be gay. I speak from personal experience. They'll mess up your kid's mental health for life. One of mine, before she got the nerve to come out to us, was suicidal at age 12. Thank God we got out, she got help, and forgave us. That is an amazing, compassionate story. I'm so glad for you, user BabyBard93, that you saw the light and you got out, especially in light of the documentary 1946. For time's sake, I'm going to move on to the next user who posted comment, user guest E7. They say, I was sent to a WELS school for most of my childhood. I could see how kids who were not members were not treated as well as the kids who were. I've seen this issue grow because the COVID shutdowns caused more parents to send their kids to a WELS school with fewer COVID restrictions. I've heard that there were teachers at the church I grew up at tried to prevent the non-member kids from singing with the member kids. Side note, that is stupid, dickish behavior, and that should not be allowed. I continue reading. I will also note that my experience overall was very negative in that school. My teachers made us watch disturbing videos about hell, which caused a lot of anxiety for me. Also, political opinions were passed off as fact, and many of the things I learned about history and science classes turned out to be misinformation. These are things to watch for as a parent, especially if your kid seems stressed. Also, if you feel comfortable, try to communicate with other parents who have been there longer to see if there have been any incidents. There have been incidents at one of the WELS schools I went to. One of them made the news, and if I hadn't specifically searched for it, I wouldn't have found it. Also, you might want to double check if the teachers teaching your kids are licensed with the state, not just the WELS Church, because some of mine either were not or did not have that information in an accessible place. I know this is a lot, but this information will help keep you and your kids safe and happy. Thank you, guest E7. You are providing a lot of sensible information, and I truly hope that OP will be able to follow this information. Next comment made by user Lil_U_Lamb. That's cute. They say, the kids were definitely treated differently or, quote, less than, end quote. Growing up, there was this air that us, quote, normal, end quote, kids didn't have to do Sunday school because we were smart and understood it. Only ones in Sunday school, public school kids. We didn't associate with them. They could give us, quote, ideas, end quote. Yeah, Lil_U_Lamb, I feel that. Now, there is a response to that, which I will mention, because it mentions an unlocked memory. User Quiet Corn Cat responded to Lil_U_Lamb's comment saying, you just unlocked a memory for me that I had forgotten about because I was treated like I was weird at school because I went to Sunday school. I just mentioned in another comment that my church didn't have its own K-8 school, so I had to attend a school across town connected to a different WELS church, and I was sometimes treated as, quote, less than, end quote, because of it. My parents sent me to Sunday school at our church, and the kids who attended the, quote, main, end quote, church didn't go to Sunday school because, like you said, that was apparently only for the public school kids. My classmates would definitely act like there was something wrong with me for going to Sunday school, of all things. That's how petty the WELS can be. Thank you for your comment, Quiet Corn Cat. Next one, user Don't Eat the Cookies Mom says, the teachers will humiliate the non-member kids on a daily basis and will treat them like lepers. The adult teachers at WELS are bigger bullies than the kids. Right, and it's so frustrating when they do that. It's not the kids' fault that the teachers can't act as adults and can't set aside their biases. Next user, Recovering Lutheran, says, my mom joined the WELS church, my dad wouldn't. The church school was head and shoulders better than the public schools available. The last 20 to 25 years, the teachers in that school have been led by a lazy teacher/principal, but the school is still having better results than the public schools around it. Side note, that doesn't surprise me. Like I said, I don't blame parents for putting their kids in a WELS school because depending on their socioeconomic status and the resources they have available around them, sometimes it's simply choosing the lesser of two evils. These parents need compassion as they try and make a wise decision for their future and for their kids' future. I continue reading. My mom, member, dad, non-member, misspelled as non-member, but kind of funny, gave me an insider-outsider standing. Paddling was still in place. If I was 1-2 deserving swats, I got 2 for the church members 1. If I was in no way involved, I still got a swat for general measure. In the end, I received a better K-8 grade education than my neighborhood peers did in public school. The hitch is my dad and his friends, while we were having fun, hunting, fishing, and camping, did more to teach me to read and listen for understanding than any school teacher ever attempted. Standing here 50 years later and looking at things I know that still verify today, my dad, Joe, Red, and Neil were the teachers of those lessons well learned. Would I send a great-grandchild to a WELS school if there was no alternative? If the, meaning there, was no other alternative. Workable alternative, close enough, yes. Yes is in all caps. Also note, the next sentence starts with but, and that's in all caps. But I would be so active, the school would have to treat me like a member, whether I joined or not. Thank you for your points, Recovering Lutheran. You made some great ones, especially about learning important lessons not taught in that school and in that ideology system. Next user, PB-Crispy. As someone who attended WELS school my entire life, get your kid out of there ASAP. User Quiet Corn Cat posted a main comment here. They say, since you came to an ex-Lutheran sub, you're going to get some very biased views. Many of us here are ex-WELS, and many of us attended WELS schools and generally had pretty terrible experiences. But please know that we're not exaggerating. We just really want you to understand that the WELS is not an environment you want for your children. I was WELS, but the church I attended was too small to have its own school. We were, quote, sister churches, end quote, with a church that had a K-8 school. Even though we were all WELS and believed the same things, I would absolutely feel like I was, quote, second class, end quote, sometimes, because I wasn't at the, quote, right, end quote, church. Church attendance was recorded at school on Mondays for us, and sometimes there'd be a suspicion if I really is in italics, went to church because I didn't attend the, quote, main, end quote, church. There were definitely times when the class felt divided between the, quote, main, end quote, church kids and the, quote, other, end quote, church kids. And we were all WELS. The WELS in general is very, very cliquey, and that trickles down to influence the kids. When I was in 6th grade, a boy transferred to our class who was Catholic. He was immediately treated like an outcast. Since Martin Luther started the Lutheran Church because of all the things he believed were wrong with the Catholic Church, the WELS especially hate Catholics. Side note, still true to this day, even if they say otherwise. I continue reading. My grandma would tell stories about how when my mom and aunts and uncles, went to Catholic school, there would often be physical fights after school with the WELS kids. Anyway, the Catholic boy in my class was bullied pretty badly by us students, and even the teachers made awful comments in front of the class about Catholics. That poor kid would be left out of games at recess and whispered about, and the teachers certainly didn't do anything to stop it. We were often told Catholics were going to hell, which was scary for me since my grandparents were Catholic. But really, the WELS Church hits hard on the messaging that the WELS have the only true beliefs that will get you to heaven, and all other churches are damning their members to hell with their heretical beliefs. So if you decide to associate with the WELS, such as sending your kids to their school, but don't convert, people are going to treat you badly because they really believe you're stupid / that Satan has a hold on you / whatever. Side note, that does unlock a memory for me, which I will cover later after finishing this. I continue reading. And beyond the bullying for being non-WELS, you should really understand that the WELS have a lot of really bad teachings that they will indoctrinate your kids with. The WELS is a young earth / creationist church, and they treat the Bible completely literally. This reading of the Bible really only works if you discourage critical thinking, because once you start to question things, it starts to unravel. I was kept in for recess for, quote, talks, end quote, with my teacher literally because I asked too many questions. They really work to try to shape children into complacent little sheep who just accept what they're told without question. It's why a lot of our schoolwork was, quote, memory work, end quote, aka memorizing and reciting Bible passages and hymns. They want us to spend our time just memorizing stuff, not learning how to analyze it. The WELS is also incredibly misogynistic. Women are treated inferior to men because the WELS believe God declared men the head of the church and the family. Women cannot vote on church matters, and many churches prohibit women from doing certain tasks or have long drawn-out debates on things like if women can serve as ushers for a church service. Parentheses, and don't even hint to a WELS member that you think women can be pastors. Oof. End parentheses. At least when I was in school, as a smart girl, I was taught to believe my real purpose was eventually to just be a wife and mother, and maybe a WELS teacher if I was really ambitious. The church is also extremely homophobic, and members are extremely comfortable sharing anti-LGBTQ rhetoric in public. They frame it as, quote, I love you, but you're a disgusting sinner who is going to hell, end quote. And they honestly think they're being nice. Sorry, I know this is long, but I just really want to get across that your suspicions are correct that you are being treated poorly, because the WELS is a terrible environment that encourages poor treatment of anyone outside their circle. I don't know why you chose to send your kids to a WELS school when you aren't WELS, but there has to be another option. I ended up going to public school for high school because my parents couldn't afford the WELS high school tuition. And I am so glad I did, because I had such a better experience in public school. Sure, public school has its problems too, parentheses. My kids go to public school and my husband teaches at a public high school, so I get it, end parentheses. But I would never, ever recommend sending kids to a WELS school. Heck, I'd homeschool if that was the only other option, and COVID showed me I'd be a terrible homeschool parent. Well said and well written. Quiet corn cat. Like I said, this unlocked a memory for me. When I was in school in the 7th grade, we had a boy transferred to us. His name was Seth Vance, and his mom was a single mother. Not judging her because I don't know her situation, and not judging him for what he did, at least in this area. He was bullied mercilessly, and I feel bad because I wasn't brave enough to speak out, even though I was also being bullied. The teacher saw and did nothing. And when Seth was driven to pull a knife on a kid because the bullying got so bad, he felt the only recourse he had was to physically threaten the bullying perpetrator. The school acted like he was to blame, and his mother, and essentially carted both of them away. I don't know if there's any written proof of this that remains there, but I still have the class photo that shows that he attended our school, and I remember very clearly listening to my mom and dad argue over his case. That is what the WELS does to people. If you can, OP, if you can at all, please get your kid to a safer area, at least to a safer schooling option. It's also worth noting that the same school, Bethlehem Lutheran in Hortonville, held a symposium under Pastor Ralph Rosenberg at that time, around my 8th grade year, to talk about bullying. And they acted as if those of us who were reporting the bullying and being emotional about the bullying were to blame, rather than the people perpetrating the bullying. As far as I know, that view has not changed. And it won't change until WELS completely has all its members leave. That concludes my transcription for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something out of it. Please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, leaving a comment down below, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.